evening, Trekkies, Trekkers, and all Trek fans alike. This is Jay coming to you from 21st Century Reviews, bringing you the overview of issues 1 through 5 of Star Trek, the official Starships collection by Eaglemoss. This collection I've been reviewing over the past few weeks, everything, trying to get a good feel for it, just doing some major critiques to trying to, fine-tune the edges of this and everything. I've been, paying a lot of attention to fellow YouTubers who have been doing this for quite a while. Big shout out to Irish Trekkie out there. You are awesome. Clearly you've got the market cornered on reviews of these items. There are a few other ones out there, though, that I have observed as well. So thank you, everybody, for your inputs so far, even though we haven't really communicated too much, other than I have been talking to Irish Trekkie, and that is awesome. I am so glad to actually be able to kind of communicate with you and kind of touch on a few things with you. So, without further ado, we're going to kind of do an overview, kind of like a best and worst, a pros and cons, give an overall grade for everything, and then kind of let you know what's going to be coming here in the near future. So, without further ado, the best of this group is going to be labeled as the 1701D, the premier edition of the whole group. To be fair, that model stands out on its own. Great decaling, great paint application, perfect stand placement, the Aztecing on the surfaces, all the attentions to detail are absolutely 100% spot on, perfect, could not ask for anything better. I can honestly say I did get a second model of it at one point, and there was some decal deviation in the second model, so I kept this one for my collection, and then did a little giveaway to somebody for the other one, and then, I weirdly enough ended up with another one completely by accident, and it became part of another display I did, which maybe sometime in the future I'll show the fans, provided I actually get any. Hint, 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 want fans, want subscribers, send out the word, everybody loves me. Anyway, the best stands as the Enterprise D. Now, the worst, in my opinion, of this group is actually going to be labeled as the 1701 Refit, which is actually very unfortunate, as this is one of my favorite models in Star Trek as a general rule. I absolutely love this ship. If I would love my tripod even more if it would stay still. Perfect. Out of focus, but perfect. This model, pretty much, it doesn't necessarily fail per se, but it just doesn't get highest marks for me. The clear plastic applications on the engine, nacelle housings, the actual paint itself, about the only thing it really gets 100% perfect on it is the decal placements. They actually paid enough attention to make sure that the little 1701s on the nacelles were actually correct. The registration number on the dorsal and ventral sections of the hull are absolutely perfect. The engineering hull section, right behind the main deflector housing, everything, again, perfect decal placement. You actually got the decals 100% spot on. No complaints. But that's about all you got right with it. The overall design of it was actually pretty good. It doesn't seem to have any, areas where the symmetry of it is off, so I can't really complain about that too much. Just, man, when you compare it to the Enterprise D and you realize just how much detail they paid attention to get that one right, for them to goof up on that one, it's rough, very rough. But I can also say, though, that the Enterprise D does actually kind of tie with the Romulan Warbird in regards to details. Such a great model. So which leads us to our pros list for this evening's portion. The pros, we got 3 Enterprise models in the first 5 issues. Oh my god, that's awesome. However, that will also lead into my cons list, but I will get to that in the cons afterwards. So like I said, 3 Enterprises. 3 staples of the series that we absolutely adore in the first 5 issues. How awesome is that? Now, to be fair too, they also made it a point in these first 5 issues to make sure and give us a really nice spread of the 3 main powers of Star Trek that everyone is familiar with. We got an excellent spread of Federation ships. We got a really good representation of the Klingons and the Romulans. This gives us some really good kind of like, whets the appetite, like really, really well. Trek fans all around, I'm sure were just like me, and I sat there and just was super excited for it. And to be fair, up until I started reviewing, I actually loved my 1701 refit, till I saw pictures of the 1701A from another reviewer and went, oh my god, at least that one looks better. It probably has flaws, but I don't have that one yet, so we won't judge that one yet. But, to be fair, I'm going to give a 3 out of 5 general rating on paint jobs, because the 3 ships that did amazing at the paint job application were the 1701D, the NX-01, and the Romulan Warbird. Excellent paint job applications. You couldn't ask for a more spot-on rendering of it. Now, the only critique I had for the Romulan Warbird is technically, when you watch it in the show, it has a much brighter hue to it, being that it looks almost fluorescent or neon colored, everything. But I think they just did that to make it so that against the starry background, it popped and made it look much bigger, because of course the Warbird is actually bigger than the 1701D. So it kind of made it look menacing because it was ridiculously huge and really bright, especially in the fact, considering the fact that when they decloak, they're invisible. You can't see them, and then to have this bright, shimmering green warship just appear out of nowhere, that's actually awesome. And I think the same could be actually said for the Bird of Prey, but not for the same reasons. So, like I said, paint jobs, amazing. On those 3 models. The ones that lacked were this one, being the 1701 refit, and the Bird of Prey. Decal placement is another one that I grade on. Decal placement, I gotta say, each model in these first 5 has 100% perfect decal placement. The decals are not off at all on any of them. To be fair, even down to the phaser emitters on the 1701. Awesome. Really good job there. The NCC 1701s on the backs of the nacelle housings on the 1701 refit. Perfect. They sit right where they're supposed to. They aren't smudged. They look great. The 1701D, even down to the little vents that sit right behind the main phaser array on the dorsal section of the saucer section, are right where they're supposed to be. That's awesome. I can't complain about that. The NX-01 has absolutely perfect decal placement on it as compared to, like, say, the Polar Lights model that I've actually built. They sit right where they're supposed to. There's no deviation in them. Awesome. Even the Klingon Bird of Prey, which I'm not a big fan of. It's, to be fair, it's got very few decals to it, but the ones it does have are on there, and they're where they're supposed to be. And the Warbird, it has 1 decal. Minus the window placements, but that counts as Aztecing. But it has 1 decal, and it's the Romulan Star Empire emblem, and it's right on the nose of it. Or it's there. So, spot on and good job on that. Now, that brings us to our cons list. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a part of our cons list that's identical to our pros list, and that is the 3 Enterprises. Despite the fact that it really whet the appetite for the fans, I felt like they kind of did you a disservice by doing that, because these are the ones that pretty much, even if you're, say you're a huge Borg fan and you really just love the Borg ships, okay, you still like the Federation starships, and of course as a Star Trek fan, you love the Enterprises. Why? Because they're part of the lore. They're the thing that jump-started your interest in it in the first place. Same can be said if you're a Romulan fan, or a Klingon fan, or a Cardassian fan, or a Dominion fan. It doesn't matter. These are the ships that you readily recognize on a weekly basis, or on whenever you happen to watch the films. They're the ships that have really got you and whet your appetite for it. And I love that. But to have 3 of your initial releases be Enterprises, it's kind of unfortunate. They should have done it as an every 5th installment or an every 10th installment kind of thing to keep the fans buying. I mean, to be fair and honest, and just in your marketing technique, I would have thought they would have said, hey, issue 1, Enterprise D. Hey, issue 10, the 1701. Hey, issue 15 or issue 20, the NX-01. To me, anyway, would have made more sense. But hey, I'm not in charge of their marketing team. I just sit here and collect and pay a lot of money for these darn things. So, to be fair, that's my main issue with that in regards to the top con on my list. The second con is, this poor little guy, the Klingon bird. This poor little guy, the Klingon bird of prey. I'm gonna pick on you for just a minute. I'm so sorry for having to do that to you. Let's make sure we have you in focus here real quick. There we go. Okay. Now, my bird of prey model has one major flaw to it, and it is not the fault of Eaglemoss. I repeat, it is not the fault of Eaglemoss. It is my fault. My carelessness knocked one of the pylons that holds the wing up. So it allows for attack mode, flight mode, and landing mode. Which brings me to my main gripe with this model. It has one mode, flight mode. And to be fair, flight mode is the least common way you see this ship. In the Cavort class cruiser, it has a slightly swept up version of the wings where it takes the wing slightly up. Not enough to be landing mode where they're fully swept upward, but just a slight swept up variant for it to be a cruiser. Now, the most common is with the wings down. With them down, that's in attack mode, and that's the way we most commonly see the bird of prey. In my opinion, if they were going to make it a solid, not moving model, that would have been the way that it should have been kept, was in attack mode. It's most recognizable that way. Now, also the main gripe with that is the paint application. As a guy who's built 3 or 4 of these, even one exactly the same size as this, its paint application is very off. They used a series of green, and then they used a series of like desert tan, and I don't know, kind of a weird, just very light brown that's not quite tan, maybe more like khaki color. It's not on there. Look at the models on the shows. Look at the models on the movies. It's not there. There's a huge crimson red spread on the bottom of the wings that makes it look menacing. And then on the tops, it's pretty much all green. If you really wanted to do a variant, just go with a darker shade of green. That would have been fine. But they didn't. They just went with weird brown colors that aren't even part of it. So, big gripe of mine with that one and everything, which is probably why, some would say, well, gee, why isn't that your least favorite? Well, to be fair, I find more wrong with the 1701 than I do with the bird of prey. Anyway, stand placement on the bird of prey was kind of an issue to me, just because the engine housing is actually a really nice feature on it. It's a nice bright red, it matches the underside of the wings, and instead they had you wedge your stand directly into it. I would have rathered that the stand run across the wings axis over here, rather than, sticking it right in the engine housing. I just didn't care for that. Which also goes with a bad stand that I got on the Warbird, which that's part of the reason why I wanted to kind of give it kind of a half star down from where it's supposed to be. But at the same time, at least I had a spare stand, so I was able to at least do something with that. And at least I was able to make good on it and everything. I mean, I asked Eaglemoss to replace the stand. They never did. No big deal. It's at least I had something to supplement it with. But had I not had a replacement, I might have made a bigger stink about it. But to be fair, stuff happens, so I wasn't too straight. So, without further ado, I look at this and kind of go, overall, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 is more than fair here because I feel like the pros outweigh the cons, especially since one of the pros happens to be one of the cons as well. So really, I had about 4 really good pros and 2 cons to this whole set. So to be fair, it's only right to give it a 4 out of 5. Everything. So we'll show the new rating system at the end a little bit with our new introduction of the new rating slide and everything with sound effects. That's kind of cool. Which brings me to what we're going to be talking about. Next issue is going to be issue number 6, the USS Voyager. I'm kind of really excited to do this review. It partially has to do with the fact that I like Voyager. I'm not a huge fan of the TV show, but I like the ship. The model's pretty cool. I've never built a Voyager. I do have the original Playmates Starship Voyager, that I keep on a stand in my living room with my gigantic Trek nerdvana that I have out there. But I mean, otherwise, it's kind of a cool thing to review. There's some things I love about it, and there's things I really don't like about it. But again, I'll kind of get into that whenever I actually do that. So that'll be coming soon. Second one I wanted to touch on, me and Irish Trekkie were talking a little bit. Hey, shout out to you, Irish Trekkie. Literally the best Eaglemoss reviewer of the Star Trek, the official Starships collection review on YouTube. The guy's got probably more fan following than just about anybody, but not to say he's the only one. Soundwave, I know you're out there too. You do an amazing job. Geekology, you guys are good. There's a few others and everything. Sorry, your names are slipping my mind right now. But eventually I'll throw a shout out to you guys too. Everybody in that list has all kind of inspired me to do this. I originally did movie reviews, and those weren't very successful, so I've kind of moved on to this to try and see if I can do something with this. So big shout out to all you guys. I really appreciate you guys just giving me some inspiration. So I mean, if you're out there and you actually watch these reviews, feel free to give me some critiques, some commentary. I'd love to actually hear what you have to say. But anyway, I was saying that I talked to Trekkie a little bit about it, and we kind of wanted to do a little bit of a petition in the fact that we're watching more issues of this kind of coming to light. And the one that's actually caught my attention that hasn't been touched on yet is the lack of a Cardassian Keldon class ship. So we're going to be putting the petition out pretty soon to see if we can, get some signatures to it, to see if Eaglemoss will, commission a model of it. Because I mean, to be fair, despite the fact that, the Titan, for example, Captain Riker's ship, is a very popular ship in Trek lore, other than in probably Star Trek Online and a few other resources, we've never seen the Titan other than on book covers and those renderings that are, like I said, probably in Star Trek Online, but it's never been officially in any movie or show, but yet it's got a model that's being, basically okayed. So the Cardassian Keldon class, though, has been in a few different episodes of Deep Space Nine, based on the fact of some of the issues some people had with the Galore. I would think that would be one they would really want to jump on. So I'm going to see what I can do to see if I can facilitate that. I'm going to build an upcoming Facebook fan page for this. I have a couple other ones that I do with other hobbies of mine, but I'm going to do a Facebook page just for funsies, just because I really do enjoy doing these. I've noticed that I've been getting a few more views on my reviews lately. I really, really want to try and see if I can spur some interest in this because, like I said, like with the Cardassian ship thing, I'd really like to have some input into this. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I'd really like to see some of my input affect the universe that I actually adore so much. So there's that. And like I said, I already put a huge shout out to you, but hey, Irish Trekkie, thanks for the input the other day, man. It was really good to talk to you, even if ever so briefly. Hopefully we'll get something going here pretty soon. So again, as usual, questions, comments, concerns, please place them in the comments section below on the video. Thank you for watching, and as usual, we're working on it.
Job done.